Most women are taught how to look high value. Very few are ever taught how to speak like one. Let's be honest, the way you speak to a man tells him everything he needs to know about how to treat you. Not your outfit, not your looks, not your social media, your voice, your tone, your boundaries. Those are your power tools. And here's the truth. High-value women don't talk like everyone else. They don't over-explain. They don't chase clarity. They don't perform emotional gymnastics to be understood. Instead, they express themselves with ease, with certainty, and without fear of being misunderstood. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. In this video, I'm going to break down how high-value women speak to men in everyday scenarios. Not just in theory, but with real examples. Whether it's texting, setting boundaries, or responding to mixed signals, you're going to see exactly what it looks and sounds like to communicate from feminine power. And no, this isn't about manipulation or pretending to be hard to get. This is about becoming the kind of woman who doesn't have to prove her worth, because it's already obvious. So if you're tired of being misunderstood, walked over, or attracting emotionally unavailable men, stay right here. By the end of this video, you won't just hear the difference, you'll feel it. Let's get into it. Most people don't realize how much their words shape the way others treat them. But here's the thing. Every word you speak is a signal, a reflection of your self-worth, your emotional state, and your standards, even when you're not trying to send a message. And when it comes to women speaking to men, those signals get amplified. Why? Because masculine energy responds not just to what you say, but how you say it. Tone, pace, intention, emotional charge. Men are intuitive in ways they don't always verbalize, but they feel everything. You might think you're just being polite, or flexible, or understanding, but he might hear she doesn't value herself enough to speak clearly, she's not used to being heard, so she's shrinking, she's over-explaining, maybe she needs approval. And this doesn't just happen in romantic relationships, it happens in texting, on first dates, in conflict, in casual conversation. Words reveal the lens through which you see yourself. For example, the difference between saying, "I guess that's fine," and saying, "That doesn't work for me, but here's what does," is massive. One leaves the door open to disrespect, the other invites alignment or disconnection, but either way, it's honest. High-value women don't use words to control. They use words to communicate truth with calm conviction. They don't use silence to punish. They use it as a filter. They're not rushing to fill space just to avoid discomfort. They allow it. That's powerful. Your words either create space for respect, or they collapse into accommodation. Your tone either invites intimacy, or demands validation. And when you start choosing words that reflect your inner stability, not your insecurities, that's when everything shifts. People feel it, men feel it, and more importantly, you start feeling it too. This is where your communication becomes magnetic, not because it's scripted, but because it's real, grounded, feminine, and completely unapologetic. That's why this matters, not just in dating, but in how you carry your entire life forward. Silence is one of the most misunderstood tools in communication, especially for women. We're often conditioned to believe that silence means disconnection, distance, or even danger. That if we're not constantly explaining, validating, or proving our intentions, something will go wrong. We might lose someone, be misunderstood, be seen as cold. But the truth is, silence is where your power begins, especially as a high-value woman. Think about it. How many times have you said yes just to avoid an awkward pause? How often have you kept talking in a conversation you didn't feel good about, just because silence felt too heavy or too risky? Most people aren't afraid of rejection. They're afraid of discomfort. And so they fill the space. They talk in circles. They rush to smooth things over. But high-value women don't do that. Because here's the secret. Silence creates space, and space creates clarity. It gives the other person a moment to reflect, to respond, to show you who they are without being led. And more importantly, it gives you a chance to feel, to pause, to ask yourself, do I even want to keep engaging in this dynamic? In relationships, especially romantic ones. Silence is often where a man will reveal his emotional maturity. Not in the easy moments, but in the silent ones. Does he lean in with curiosity or pull away in avoidance? Does he try to connect with you from a genuine place or fill the silence with surface-level noise? You don't need to break tension every time it arises. You don't need to apologize for a pause in the conversation. High-value women honor silence as part of their communication, not a lack of it. It's the breath between boundaries, the mirror that reflects the energy of the room, the moment where real connection either deepens or fades out naturally. Silence also allows your words to land. When you speak clearly and then allow space, you give your message weight. It says, I've said what I needed to say. I don't need to repeat it. I don't need to convince you. That's confidence. That's emotional maturity. That's magnetic. You don't have to be cold to be quiet. You don't have to be distant to be discerning. When you stop fearing silence, you start listening. And when you start listening deeply, you begin to realize who is truly in alignment with your energy and who is just entertained by your voice. So the next time you feel the urge to speak just to fill space, pause instead. Let silence speak for you. Because sometimes the most powerful thing a high-value woman can say is nothing at all. Now let's get into what this actually sounds like in real life. Because understanding the theory is one thing, but hearing the actual language high-value women use, that's where everything clicks. Let's start with a common situation. A man texts you last minute, "Hey, wanna hang out tonight?" The usual response might sound like, "Sure, just let me know when and where." It seems easygoing, right? But underneath it's reactive. It shows you're available without being considered. A high-value response would be, "Thanks for the invite. I need a little more notice. Let's plan for another day." It's clear, it's kind, and it communicates standards without any drama. Here's another one. He's being inconsistent, showing up one day, disappearing the next. You're tempted to ask, "Is something wrong? Are we okay?" But that energy is chasing clarity from someone who isn't giving consistency. Instead, try, "I'm looking for consistency and depth in the way I connect with someone." If that's not where you're at, that's totally okay. But I won't be continuing this energy. See the difference? It's grounded. You're not begging for reassurance. You're self-regulating. Let's do one more. Say you're on a date, and he says something that crosses a boundary, a joke that feels off, or something dismissive. Instead of laughing awkwardly or ignoring it, a high-value woman might simply say, "That didn't land well with me." Short, honest. You don't need to explain or escalate. That one sentence is enough to reset the energy, or reveal something about his response. Another example, he's flirting with inconsistency, dropping compliments but not following up. Instead of leaning in, overanalyzing, or trying to win him over, she might say, "I don't invest deeply where I'm not being intentionally pursued." She's not punishing, she's not performing, she's informing, and that's powerful. Here's a subtle one you can use anytime. "I trust people to show me who they are." That one sentence alone can replace hours of exhausting conversations. It reflects a mindset of observation, not control. Notice the pattern in all these examples. There's no begging, no chasing, no over-explaining. The energy is direct, but never harsh, firm, but never aggressive, clear, but still feminine. High-value women use language to express, not to manipulate, not to test, not to convince. They don't try to earn worth through words. They let their standards speak for them. And when you begin speaking this way, you'll notice everything shifts. How men respond, how you feel in your body, how grounded you are even in moments of uncertainty. This isn't about using the right line. It's about speaking from a place where your worth isn't on trial. That's how high-value women speak. Not louder, just cleaner, calmer, and with no apology in their tone. Let's talk about what not to say if you want a man to respect you. Not fear you, not chase you out of confusion, but truly respect you. Because a lot of women are unintentionally sabotaging their own value by using language that sounds innocent on the surface, but underneath, it's signaling neediness, insecurity, or low self-trust. And respect disappears the moment those signals become consistent. Here's a subtle one. "I don't know, what do you want to do?" This seems harmless, right? Just being easygoing. But when used repeatedly, it gives away your power. It says, "My preferences don't matter, just choose for me." High-value women can absolutely be flexible, but they don't abandon their own desires in the process. Try, I'm open to a few things, but here's what I'd enjoy. Another one, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bother you. This is the language of someone who's afraid to take up space. Respect doesn't live where you're constantly apologizing for your existence. If you feel like you're always pre-apologizing for having needs or initiating conversations, that's not humility, it's self-erasure. And high-value women don't erase themselves to keep anyone comfortable. Now let's talk about phrases that chase approval. Do you still like me? Was that okay? Are you mad at me? These are anxious check-ins disguised as questions. And to be clear, emotional safety is important. But constantly fishing for reassurance trains someone to see you as emotionally unstable, even when you're not. It puts them in the role of emotional caretaker, which becomes exhausting over time. Instead of asking for emotional temperature checks, observe patterns. Trust what people show you, not what they say in the moment to calm your nerves. One more. I know I'm probably overreacting, but the moment you say that, you've undercut yourself. If you feel something deeply, speak it clearly. High-value communication is about owning your experience without making it smaller just to sound more reasonable. You don't have to yell, you don't have to be dramatic, but don't self-edit your feelings before they even leave your mouth. Here's the bottom line. Language that seeks permission, validation, or control dilutes your energy. Language that reflects self-trust, clarity, and grounded emotion commands respect. You don't have to be perfect with your words, but you do need to be aware of how often you're trying to manage someone's perception of you instead of just being real. Because respect doesn't come from being agreeable, it comes from being rooted in your values, your standards, and your voice. And once you stop saying these things, people will start listening differently. They'll lean in, they'll step up, because you're finally speaking from real value. Let's be real. How you respond when you're triggered says more about your emotional maturity than anything else. It's easy to sound confident when things are going well. When he's showing up, being consistent, making you feel secure. But what happens when he pulls back? When he says something that hits a nerve? When you feel rejected, ignored, or emotionally unsafe? That's where most women either explode or collapse. But a high-value woman doesn't do either. She doesn't react to her triggers, she responds to them. And that difference is everything. Being triggered is human. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means there's something unhealed, something old, something sacred being touched. But instead of outsourcing the responsibility to fix it, she pauses, she breathes, she checks in with herself before reaching out. For example, let's say he leaves your message on read. Your brain spirals. The urge is strong to say, "Why are you ignoring me? What did I do wrong?" Or worse, you send a passive-aggressive text just to get a reaction. A high-value woman does none of that. She might say, "I noticed I felt anxious when I didn't hear back. I'm learning to hold space for that without making assumptions." Or she says nothing at all, because not everything needs a comment. Sometimes silence is a self-honoring boundary. Let's take another example. He makes a comment that feels off. Maybe it wasn't meant to hurt, but it hit something deep. Instead of pretending it's fine and stewing in silence, or lashing out later, she can simply say, "That caught me off guard. Can I be honest about how that landed for me?" See the energy. There's no shame, no control, no emotional blackmail, just truth. Spoken in a calm, self-aware tone. Grace doesn't mean being emotionless. It means you can hold your emotion without letting it hijack the moment. You can cry, you can feel hurt, you can be vulnerable, but it's coming from ownership, not blame. This kind of communication doesn't just earn respect, it deepens intimacy, because you're showing him, "I can be triggered and still stay connected to myself. I don't need to punish you or abandon me." That is incredibly rare and incredibly magnetic. Most people think high-value women don't get triggered. That's false. They do. They just don't hand their power away in the process. They breathe before they speak. They reflect before they react. They choose clarity over chaos, even when it's hard. Because being graceful doesn't mean being soft-spoken. It means staying grounded in the storm. And that's what makes you unforgettable. Let's talk about mixed signals. The texts that don't get answered, the sudden coldness after a warm night, the compliments that are never followed by consistent effort. We've all been there. One moment it feels like there's connection. The next it's silence or ambiguity. Confusing, right? But here's the truth. High-value women don't chase clarity in confusion. They observe it. They don't obsess over mixed signals. They decode them quickly, and they act accordingly. Because mixed signals are actually very clear. They mean the person isn't grounded enough to give you consistent energy. Whether it's emotional immaturity, lack of interest, or something going on in their own life, it doesn't matter. High-value women don't dig for excuses. They don't investigate someone else's chaos to prove their worth. Now that doesn't mean she cuts people off cold, the second things feel uncertain, but she doesn't overfunction in the face of inconsistency. She doesn't try to earn steady love from unstable energy. Instead, she mirrors clarity. Let's say a man says all the right things but follows through with nothing. Instead of calling him out emotionally, "Why do you keep saying things you don't mean?" she might respond with, "I move with people who move with intention. Let me know when your actions match your words." Short, elegant, direct, no begging, no blaming, just truth with a closed door and open grace. Another scenario. He texts you every 3 days, just enough to keep you emotionally tethered, but not enough to build anything meaningful. Instead of feeding that breadcrumb dynamic, she might say, "This rhythm doesn't work for me. I'm looking for depth and consistency, not check-ins." She's not waiting around hoping he changes. She's communicating her standards clearly, and if he doesn't rise to meet them, she gracefully exits. Because here's what you have to remember. Mixed signals aren't a puzzle to solve. They're a filter to recognize. And when you handle them with self-respect and neutrality, you stop leaking energy into people who don't deserve it. A high-value woman doesn't get addicted to potential. She doesn't fantasize about what it could be. She gets honest about what it is. And more importantly, she doesn't try to fix confusion. She walks where there's clarity. Because emotional inconsistency is not romantic. It's not mysterious. It's exhausting. And she knows her peace is far too expensive to gamble on uncertainty. So the next time someone sends you a mixed signal, don't ask, "What does this mean?" Ask yourself, "Do I really want to be here?" And then move accordingly, like a queen would. Let's talk about boundaries. Because setting them isn't about being cold, distant, or aggressive. In fact, the most powerful boundaries are often delivered softly, with calmness, with clarity, with love. High-value women don't set boundaries to control people. They set them to protect their peace, to honor their emotional capacity, and to invite others into healthier, more respectful dynamics. But here's the part most people miss. You don't need to over-explain, over-defend, or apologize for your boundaries. That's not strength. It's insecurity in disguise. Boundaries are not an attack. They're just information. For example, let's say someone keeps texting you late at night, disrupting your sleep or your routine. A low-value reaction might sound like, "Stop texting me so late, that's so rude." A high-value woman would simply say, "Hey, I'm not available for late-night texts. I'll respond when it's within my hours." It's calm, it's honest. It doesn't shame the other person, it just draws a line. Another example, you're on a date, and the energy starts turning sexual too quickly, but you're not comfortable yet. Instead of freezing or brushing it off with nervous laughter, you say, "I'm not moving in that direction right now. I'm here to connect first." That one sentence sets the tone without shutting down the entire vibe. It redirects without creating resistance. See, the tone matters just as much as the words. When you speak from self-trust, people can feel it. You're not rigid, you're not confrontational, you're just anchored. And that energy commands far more respect than force ever could. High-value women know you can be warm and still have walls. You can smile while saying no. You can love someone and still not tolerate certain behaviors. That balance is where your feminine power becomes magnetic, because it's rare. A lot of women set boundaries from a place of burnout after being pushed too far. That's when it gets reactive, harsh, even emotional. But when you're proactive, when you set boundaries before they're crossed, you don't need to yell, defend, or get dramatic. It just becomes how you operate. You're not asking for permission. You're not hoping to be understood. You're simply choosing what you will and won't participate in. And when you set boundaries with that kind of grace, the people meant for you will rise to meet them. And the ones who aren't, they'll remove themselves. And that's a gift. Because a woman who respects her own limits teaches the world how to treat her without ever having to raise her voice. So remember, kindness doesn't mean over-accessibility. Compassion doesn't require overexposure. Boundaries are love. Boundaries are clarity. And when spoken with grace, they become one of your strongest forms of self-expression. Feminine confidence isn't loud. It's not about being the center of attention, dominating the room, or proving your worth. It's the quiet, unshakable knowing that you belong, even when you're silent, even when no one's watching, even when things don't go the way you expected. It's the kind of presence that doesn't need to chase validation, because it's not looking outward for permission to exist. It's already rooted. Feminine confidence says, I can be soft and still powerful. I can be receptive and still in control of my energy. I can love fully without abandoning myself in the process. You feel it in how she walks into a room, not rushed, not performative, just present. You see it in the way she speaks, pausing before responding, not out of hesitation, but because she chooses her words with intention. She's not trying to fill space. She's not shrinking either. She's simply there, fully. Let me show you what it sounds like. When someone asks her to do something that doesn't feel aligned, she doesn't over-explain or panic about being liked. She simply says, that doesn't work for me. No apology, no defense, just truth, wrapped in calm. When someone compliments her, she doesn't deflect or downplay it. She meets it with open energy. Thank you. That means a lot. She receives, she allows, she doesn't shrink to make others more comfortable. If she's attracted to someone, she doesn't play games or act attached, but she also doesn't lose her center trying to win someone over. Instead, she shows up as herself. I like this energy between us. Let's see where it goes. She's open, not desperate, curious, but not grasping. Because real feminine confidence doesn't chase, it attracts. It doesn't convince, it invites. It's not about having no insecurities. It's about not letting those insecurities run the show. She still gets nervous. She still has moments of doubt, but her power lies in how she responds to those moments. She doesn't collapse. She recenters. She knows her worth is not situational. It doesn't rise or fall based on who texts back, who stays, or who walks away. It's already there. Quiet, steady, untouchable. That's what makes her magnetic. Not her looks, not her status, her energy, her emotional stability, her ability to stay rooted in who she is, no matter who's watching. That is feminine confidence in action. It's less about how she acts and more about how she feels and what she no longer tolerates. Because when a woman steps fully into her feminine confidence, she doesn't need to prove she's high value. She just is. As we wrap up, take a moment to breathe and let everything we've covered really sink in. You've just stepped into a space that most people don't get to experience. The unfiltered truth about how high value women communicate, how they hold their power, and how they shape their relationships with grace and confidence. This isn't about perfection. It's not about trying to become someone you're not. It's about rediscovering who you truly are underneath all the noise, the doubts, and the people-pleasing habits. It's about standing tall in your own truth with no apologies. Remember, high-value communication isn't a checklist. It's a mindset shift, a daily practice. Some days you'll nail it, and others you'll stumble. And that's okay. Growth isn't linear. What matters most is your commitment to show up for yourself consistently. Your next step, it's simple but powerful. Start speaking with intention. Notice the words you use when you talk to yourself and others. Are they lifting you up or tearing you down? Are you setting boundaries gently but firmly, or are you leaving doors open to confusion? This awareness is your secret weapon. When you begin to choose your words carefully, your energy changes, and so does the way people respond to you. You'll start attracting relationships that feel easier, more aligned, and more respectful. And you'll notice something even more important. You'll begin to respect yourself more deeply. Because confidence isn't about being flawless. It's about being real, vulnerable when it's safe, strong when it's necessary, and kind always, especially to yourself. So here's what I want you to do after this video. Take a moment to reflect on one area in your communication where you felt weak or unsure. Maybe it's saying no without guilt, or responding to triggers with calm instead of emotion. Pick one small thing to practice this week, and when you do it, celebrate it. Even if it feels awkward or uncomfortable at first, you're rewiring old patterns. That's progress. Remember, you are not just learning how to talk to men differently, you're learning how to hold yourself differently. That's the foundation of every strong, fulfilling relationship you want in your life. And if you want to go deeper, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell, because there's so much more coming that will help you build the life and love you deserve. Thank you for showing up for yourself today. Your growth, your power, and your happiness are worth every effort. Keep shining, keep growing, and remember, you already are enough. I'll see you in the next video.